this, and the burdoom is the snaffle part. But Bill Atkinson had one that was a mule bit, and it was the burdoom, the second upper bit, was actually bicycle chain. Yeah. Terrible. People just didn't, well, they didn't have time to, I was watching Ken Burns' thing about the Civil War last night, 1862, and I was looking at the bits they put in those horses. They didn't have time to sit there and be horse whisperers. They had a war to fight, and I've got some bits at home hanging on the wall I could show you.
Well, that bass bit looks just very much like the stock bit my dad used.
Yeah, a bit's only as severe as the hands that are...
Yeah, and the stock bit had the same shape like this, and the shanks were like that. That was a stock bit.
Yeah, it's when you get big shanks like this that, And then, of course, he was asking me about a port. A port is when you have the straight bit, and then you got the bump right there. A lot of times there'd be a roller in that port.
I've seen those.
And that would keep a busy horse rolling the roller. But when you pull on the shanks of a palom, that port engages into the roof of their mouth. And that will give them a headset like this, And you can hurt a horse because they're saying ouch, and they'll stay off that bit. The idea nowadays is to take a snaffle bit, nice light snaffle bit, and get them to accept the bit and stay off of it. And that's because you're using your hands and your seat, you're communicating, stay off. Now, if they take a hold of that, I'll take a snaffle bit that's got double twisted wire. And now, owie, 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 soar them up right here. Then they back off of it. But what you're doing is you're hurting them. You don't want to hurt them because then they resent the bit.
But a snaffle bit is one of the mildest.
Oh yeah,
bits,
I have a collection of snaffle bits. I got when I go into an antique store and I find a snaffle bit hanging on the wall, I look for a sweet iron snaffle bit. It's got a little rusty patina, and you just look at the curve of it. Is it going to lay in their mouth and be comfortable? You want them to like it. You want them to accept it. You want to be able to have a float in the reins. And if a horse is taking a hold of you, you gotta look at what's your part in it. What can you do to get that horse to accept that bit as just part of your hands, part of your seat, part of your weight? If they resent the bit, what are you doing wrong? You can't take them. They've been sitting for 6 months out in the pasture, and they're hot, or they don't want to pay attention. You can't pull them out on the first day and expect them to go, oh yeah, cool, Dave. No. Put a hackamore on them for a few days. You want to get them to bend. You want to get them to think. You want to work with them on the ground. Then you introduce them to their bit, whatever bit they are. And I switch bits all the time. I'll put a palom on them one day. Then I'll put a snaffle on them one day. Keep them guessing. Dad, look what and sometimes it doesn't work. Pull it off. Put another bit on them. It doesn't have to be. There's no rules. Now there's things that definitely don't work. Johnny Gonzalez would get up in the morning, and he would grab a big balding berry gag. It's a gag, which is a snaffle bit, but the rope from the cheek piece runs down through the center of the ring. So when you pull that rein, it has a winching action. Puts pressure on the pole up here, and a gag is to get a horse's head up. And he'd use a big balding berry gag, a big balding gag, which is a half moon gag, and he'd start riding his colts, and he'd put every horse in that bit on that day. And I used to think that, he's just being lazy. He doesn't want to go to the tack room, get the correct bit for the horse. He'd ride them all in this balding berry gag, and some would work good, some it's just not the bridle for him, but he would ride them all in that balding berry gag that one day. And I just shake my head. I couldn't believe what it was. But now, Barry came out with what's called a berry gag. Berry gag would have two pieces in their mouth. So it was a broken snaffle bit. Snaffle bit is on a ring. Okay, you can have a sliding snaffle bit that slides in a ring, or you can have an egg butt snaffle, which is hinged and it doesn't move. Egg butt's it's a very nice bit for a young horse. As horses get older, their mouths get harder, they don't respond to broken bits as well, but they bend. You want a horse to bend, you want a horse to unhinge their hindquarters, bend at the shoulder. You want to be able to bend a horse and put his nose right in your lap and bend this way and move sideways. If you put a shank bit, they stiffen. Now you've got a stiff horse. That's the worst thing in the world. You don't want a horse to be stiff. You want him to be able to bend.
So when Tom Bass created his bit, it revolutionized the bit industry?
Well, probably for that particular breed, and it just depends on what the Bass bit is. There must be all kinds of variations to it, because young horses can't tolerate a severe bit, nor should they have one in their mouth. It depends on the discipline. I don't know anything about showing saddlebred horses. All I know is that old world style of long shanks and just headsets like this, and then the motion of the horse, and they actually used to put in wedges in their feet. They would hurt their feet to teach them to get the action of their feet up like this. They had all kinds of aids that I don't know if he used those or not. I'd have to revisit his book. But you wanted to see all this action in the front like this. That's why the Park saddle was cut back like this, because the neck was coming. You wanted this prominent neck and this headset like this, And so I don't know what the discipline is, and I'm sure that if he made a, quote, Bass bit, he probably had all types of variations of it, because he'd have a less severe one for younger horses, a more severe one for horses as they get older. Horses that get older generally get a harder mouth, and so they can handle a more severe bit. But you put a severe bit on a young horse and you get in a tussle with them and take a hold of them, boom, they'll go right over backwards on you, because they can't handle it. They can't, nor should they have to. You put a severe bit on a young horse, you deserve what you get. You use the least amount of bit to get what you're trying to accomplish out of a horse. You don't want them hanging on you. You never want a horse to hang on you.
What does that mean?
When they grab a hold of it. I used to ride Barbie home. I'd ride Barbie home. She had a terrible habit of rooting. So you're riding along and she'd grab a hold of the bit and she'd jerk really hard. And it just infuriates you, because you're sitting there talking and the reins. The reins. And so you snatch her back and knock it off. Get off of me. She's just being a brat. She's taking a hold of the bit and she's pulling real hard. She'd pull it right out of your hands. It didn't mean she was, I go, my God, I've got a heavy horse. Had nothing to do with that. It had to do with the fact she hadn't been ridden for 6 months. She was being a brat. She was being a little shit. She was just pulling. And she's an extremely light horse. So what I do is ride her 3 days in a row so that she gets sober. Because this is, when they act like idiots and they haven't been ridden for 6 months, they're not sober. They're literally just not sober. They're full of grain and vitamins and piss and vinegar, and they just don't, and they'll, but you ride them 3 days in a row, don't react to a lot of the stuff they're doing. Just realize that 3 days from now that you've had consistent riding, she doesn't do that anymore. I didn't make an issue out of it. Now sometimes you want to kick them right in the belly when they do that, spin them around and say, knock it off, and then they'll cut it out. Fine. But it's a combination. You can't just rely on hardware and gadgets you now if you ride them every day consistently and they're still not stopping, or or you are going to have to go to a harder bit. But I have a little Palom polo bit that I've had since the 1980s. It's a short shank Palom with a medium port. The shank's only this long. Beautiful curb chain. The curb chain is the brakes, because when you pull back on the shank, it engages the curb under their chin, and that makes them stop. If you don't have that chain there and you pull back, you'll just pull the shank straight back. That's what I got ran away with in Summerlin. The girl didn't put the curb chain on. I was a hot shot, and it had rained, and John Hall, remember John Hall? He was the big multimillionaire. He was the one that was at the helm of the nuclear submarine when it smashed the fishing. Remember the Japanese fishing trawler off the coast of Hawaii, when they were messing around and they did an emergency.
He wasn't the captain.
No, but he was on board.
Oh, he was the VIP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was on the bridge when they were showing off, and they smashed and yeah. Anyhow, he's a multimillionaire, ex-Secret Service, ex-Special Forces, and millionaire, and so money's no object to him. Everything with John Hall was big. His horses were big. He was big. He bought Halloween from Bill Atkinson for $20,000 back in the '80s. Most money ever spent for a California thoroughbred, and so he grains and he vitamins and pumps in the B12s, and his horses are just massive. Well, what happened was they were supposed to play on Sunday, but it got rained out. So here comes Monday. These horses are super hard fit, ready to play in the Pacific Coast Open. Every one of these big black bastards is 16-2. And the groom was hurt. So he goes, Dave, go over and take my horses out on Monday. He was all drunk at the clubhouse, and he says, put a little air in them. Because they were supposed to play, he wanted me to blow them out. So I was like, cool, I'll do that. Because you get to go to Artie's place on the beach, gallop them all the way to Summerlin, gallop them all the way back, and then blow them out. Okay, brah, brah, brah. And that's fun, because you sit on one, and you got one big black bastard here and one big black bastard over here, and you put chains over their noses. So I get out there and I'm going up the beach, and the ground is just shaking. I mean, they're so powerful. And it's a nudist beach, and it's all gay.
Oh yeah.
And so you see all these little naked balls, and you're all, and I'm just wearing my sunglasses, and I'm like Ben-Hur on a chariot. And I go all the way to Summerlin, and then I turn around, and I'm galloping all the way back down to Padero Lane, which is a long, and the little gay guys, they're running out of the way, and I'm like, because the ground just shakes. When you're riding 3 16-2 jet black monsters, I mean, super hard fit. They don't even sweat. You can run them 5-6 miles. They don't even break a sweat. Take them all the way back down to Padero Lane. Then I turn them around, and John Hall had said, put a little air in them. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble because I'm galloping away from the barn. Now, I don't know of any horse that ever runs away going away from the barn, right? So I turn around, and I start heading away from the barn. I'm going back to Summerlin, and I've got chains over my ponied horses, and I go, let's go! And the 2 pony horses on either side went, and they got out in front of me. They looked across at each other and said, let's do it! And they took off running, and whoa, whoa, whoa! And I look down, and I'm pulling on this bit, and I have the girl, Liz Ladaki, had put what's called a Tom Thumb. It's the worst bit in the world. It's a broken bit like a snaffle, but it has a shank and a little curb chain. Well, she had failed to put the curb chain on. So basically,
gosh.
even with the curb chain, I probably wasn't stopping. Pull back on that and nothing. I'm pulling on the jaws of a horse that just said, you said, let's go, let's go. My eyes are watering, and the little gay guys are going, yeah, and the naked gay guys on the nudie beach are really scattering now. Look out! Look out! And the two pony horses have pulled out ahead of me, and they're just digging in. Because, see, they were supposed to play polo on Sunday. They're not tired. And I am just pulling, and I'm standing up in the stirrups, and I am pulling as hard as I can. And the harder I pull, the faster they go. And where am I going to end up? They're going to Summerlin, and they're going faster and faster and faster. You know, I'm going 30, 40, 45, you know. And so what do you do when you're in runaway horses? Brilliant idea. Like a runaway truck ramp. Turn them into the ocean. Now I'm going, and the water is flying. I can't see. I'm like, you sons of bitches, you want to run off with me? And I'm in a foot of water. I'm in 2 feet of water. I feel the lead ropes getting wet, and here comes a big wave, and I'm in 4 feet of water. Well, how the hell can I get run off at the 4 feet of water? I just turn him into the water, and that son of a bitch I'm on, he falls, and it's like slow motion. Now I'm underwater. I'm going to get kicked in the head. I'm going to get drowned. The gay guys will probably be giving me mouth to mouth.
Oh.
I'm like, no! I'm waiting for a kick to the head, and I feel the pony horses going out of my hands. And I said, you son of a bitch. And I just held onto those reins because I knew that when this seahorse gets his feet, and so the horse that I was on underwater, I'm just waiting for him to get his feet and then pull me up out of the water. Out of the water I come, and my pony horses are circling around like this, and the naked gay guys are catching my horses for me, and I come up out of the water. I still have a hold of this horse, and now here come the naked gay guy. Oh, nothing to see here. I meant to do that. And I'm trying to put my foot up in the stirrup of a 16-2 horse, and it's full of seawater. My boot's full of seawater. And finally, I get up on my horses, you know, and they hand me my horses, and I'm like, I'm good. And I have probably run 1,000 yards wide open, and I'm good. I turn them around. And I start walking them home, and they're just all proud of themselves. They're totally soaking wet. I'm like, you sons of bitches for make me. So I go walking home, and I go up, and I hand the horses back. She's like, what did you do to my tack? You got my tack all wet. Now I'm going to have to clean. I'm like, shut up. Shut up. I'm all pouring my boots out. And you know what? When you get a polo game canceled on Wednesday, you got a makeup game on Tuesday. And John Hall went out and played them horses, and they won the game. And he got all drunk, came up to me in the clubhouse. Hey, little buddy, I don't know what you did with them horses, but they never played better than it. Whatever you're doing, you keep doing it. And I'm like, no, you don't. Boy, they played good because he said put some air in them, and by God, that was one of my classic runaways, exploding into the Pacific Ocean at 45 miles an hour.
Surrounded by naked gay guys.
Naked gay guys and 3,000 pounds of pure black muscle.
But they got a hold of him, huh?